It's been 32 years since we last saw Simon at the height of the point-and-click adventure craze, right alongside Monkey Island and Maniac Mansion Day of the Tentacle. And now, after all this time, the snarkiest sorcerer in gaming finally returns with Simon and the Sorcerer Origins, a fully hand-drawn prequel that feels straight out of the 90s but built for today. It's packed with humor, puzzles, and jaw-dropping animation that rivals some of Disney's best work. And yes, even Rick Astley makes a magical comeback, and for you young kids, Rick Astley is the Rickroll guy, but for old guys like me, I know him as Rick Astley. So let's dive in and talk about what makes Simon and the Sorcerer Origins one of the most charming adventures of the year. Alright spellcasters, let's open the storybook because this one's got more magic ink than Hogwarts Library. The story takes us back to April 1993, just weeks before the events of the first Simon the Sorcerer game. We meet a 12-year-old Simon, rebellious, witty, and just expelled from school, moving into a new house with his parents. While exploring, he's sucked into a mystical world full of sorcerers, trolls, and talking creatures. And that's where his journey begins, and if you've played the original, you'll immediately recognize where this prequel's ending connects to that classic opening. But it's the presentation that truly makes this game shine. The developers spent over 3 years and 80 professionals crafting this project, and it shows in every frame. Literally, more than 15,000 hand-drawn frames were created, each bursting with personality. The art team even spent 8 months just perfecting the game's visual design, studying the color palette and style of the 1993 original before redrawing every character and background by hand. The result is a late 90s, early 2000s Disney-style aesthetic with fluid animation and stunning lighting that instantly reminded me of films like The Iron Giant or Treasure Planet. They even brought in animators from the Oscar-nominated Netflix film Klaus, the Christmas movie, to handle full-motion cutscenes, and the transitions between gameplay and story moments are seamless. There's zero loading or awkward fade-outs. It just flows like an animated movie. Audio-wise, this thing's loaded with nostalgia. Chris Berry, who voiced Simon in the original English release, is back after 32 years to reprise the role. His delivery still nails that cheeky, self-aware wit that defined Simon in the first place. German fans get Eric Borner, who also returns from the 90s dub, so whichever version you play, it's a reunion done right. Then there's the soundtrack. Mason Fisher, known for Eye of the Beholder 3 and Fear, composed a beautiful, whimsical score that captures both the mystery and humor of Simon's world. And as if that wasn't enough, they licensed Rick Astley's Together Forever from Warner Brothers, Universal, and BMG, so I'm sure they had a lot of hoops to jump through, and it's used in the intro and a couple other scenes. The minute I heard those opening notes though, I was grinning ear to ear. Talk about nailing the vibe of the era. And here's a neat touch, you can even toggle between a VHS or CRT TV effect in the video settings to make the visuals look like they're coming through your childhood tube TV. Combine that with the game's clean 4K 60 presentation, and you've got a nostalgic throwback that still feels completely modern. Simply put, this is one of the most beautifully presented point-and-click adventures I've ever played. I've played nearly all of them. Alright, let's get clicking because this game's all about thinking, tinkering, and occasionally overthinking. If you've played a classic LucasArts adventure, you'll feel right at home. The gameplay revolves around exploration, item collection, dialogue, and puzzle solving. You'll examine everything, combine items in weird ways that are definitely not obvious sometimes, and talk to eccentric characters that all around sound like they escaped from a Monty Python sketch. But Origins adds a few modern twists that make it stand out. First are the elemental spells, fire, ice, wind, light, which you can use just like inventory items. You might freeze water to reach a platform, burn an obstacle with fire, or use wind to activate a mechanism. It gives the puzzle design a dynamic layer that's genuinely clever. Then comes the magic hats, which are pure genius. You'll unlock different hats, like a white hat, green hat, and so on, that can transform items in your inventory. So one moment you'll be staring at a dead end, and the next you'll realize switching hats changes an object entirely, revealing a new solution. It's puzzle design that rewards curiosity. Controls are intuitive with quick shortcuts using L1 and R1, letting you cycle through interchangeable items, so you're not pixel hunting for every little thing that you need to inspect. Fast travel is near instant, which saves tons of time during backtracking heavy chapters. Everything about the control scheme feels classic yet streamlined, exactly what you'd hope for in a 2025 reimagining of a 1993 point-and-click adventure. Here's where Simon the Sorcerer Origins separates the puzzle lovers from the button mashers. This game demands patience, creativity, and lateral thinking. It's not difficult in the sense of quick reflexes, but it is tough in how it expects you to think like the developers of the 90s. Each chapter introduces new logic puzzles, and they always make sense once you crack them, even if you question your sanity getting there. And I'll admit, I hit a few walls in Chapter 5, Chapter 8, even Chapter 9, and they were real head scratchers. I didn't even know if I was going to be able to beat this game in time for the review. Thankfully, I did. I don't want to go into any detail about the puzzles because solving them is highly gratifying, but you're never solving nonsense for the sake of it. It all connects once the logic clicks. The developers estimate about 10 to 12 hours for veterans and 14 to 16 for casual players, which was spot on. My advice, if you get stuck, this is one of those games where it's highly beneficial to take a break, revisit some old areas, or just look at things from a different perspective. The game rewards persistence and curiosity, not brute force. So who should step into the wizard's robe this time around? This one is made for fans of story-driven games, puzzle lovers, and especially anyone who grew up during the golden age of point-and-click adventures. If you adore Monkey Island, Day of the Tentacle, or even newer throwbacks like Thimbleweed Park or Return to Monkey Island, this will hit all the right nostalgic notes, trust me on that. The humor is spot on, dry, sarcastic, and filled with meta jokes about adventure games themselves. There's even a couple cameos from some of the point-and-click games we grew up playing, which again, I don't want to give it away. Now, for accessibility, the game's fully localized in 11 languages, offers adjustable text sizes, contrast modes, layout options, and supports pad, mouse, keyboard, and touchscreen controls depending on your platform. It's approachable for both old school fans and new players discovering this genre for the first time. So how fun is it to be a teenage wizard with attitude? Honestly, it was a blast. From the moment Simon breaks the fourth wall and talks directly to you, the game's charm is undeniable. Kind of reminds me of watching Saved by the Bell growing up, when Zach would call a timeout and then look at the camera and talk to you. Every conversation has personality, and the performances bring each eccentric character to life. The writing is full of clever callbacks, subtle gags, and even old school gamer jokes that only longtime gamers will catch. The animation, music, and dialogue timing all work together to keep you smiling. And while the puzzles can get tough, the joy of cracking one after an hour of trial and error is incredibly satisfying. You'll get that aha moment, followed by an involuntary grin every single time. Now, let's talk about legacy, because this isn't just a game, it's a resurrection. Back in the 90s, Simon the Sorcerer sold over 1 million copies per version across Amiga and PC, even surpassing Monkey Island in some regions. It was one of the crown jewels of the British adventure scene, cynical, sharp, and unmistakably funny. So to see it return after 3 decades with this level of care and craftsmanship, it's a love letter to the genre and to everyone who grew up solving absurd puzzles while laughing at our own logic. Simon the Sorcerer Origins doesn't reinvent the wheel, it restores it, and in doing so, it proves that there's still a place for smart, story-driven adventures in 2025. Alright friends, now it's time for my final thoughts. Simon the Sorcerer Origins is everything I hoped it would be, a heartfelt return to one of the genre's founding fathers. It's funny, heartfelt, clever, and absolutely stunning to look at. The voice acting spot on, the puzzles make you think without crossing into frustration, and the animation is just pure magic. Now you guys can get this on PlayStation 5, 4, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and PC, running beautifully at 4K 60 except for Nintendo Switch and Xbox One, and delivers one of the most polished, classic-style adventures in years. If you grew up on 90s adventure games, this isn't just a prequel, it's a thank you letter. Simon the Sorcerer Origins gets my full Thunderstruck recommendation. If you played the original Simon games, or if this is your first magical trip into the genre, drop a comment below and tell me your favorite puzzle moment or hidden reference. I'd love to know what made you laugh, what stumped you, and if you caught some of the nods that I did. If this review helped you out, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It helps me more than you know. And be sure to check out the Nintendo Byte podcast, which I co-host every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Arizona time alongside Nintendo Prime, Gamebird Classic, and Eric Moore, and our amazing lineup of new and reoccurring guests. We talk all things Nintendo, news, rumors, predictions, what games we're playing, always plenty of laughs. Thanks for watching, Stash fam. I'll see you on the next one, and as always, remember, you're never too old to play video games.